Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you're listening to the podcast of two dads going through the journey of fatherhood while you all sit back and get to laugh at us as we do it. And you know what, Brandon? I say that at the beginning of every podcast, and it's been quite a while since I've actually had a beer while we recorded. But today, I do have a beer in hand, so the saying actually holds true. Put down your baby, pick up a beer. I got a beer. Mom's gone for the evening. She just got a girls' night out. Yep, she's at a girls' night out. So I had the girls after coming home from work, got them down, and you know what that means. It means it's time to crack open a beer and relax by doing this podcast, right? That's what we're doing. So what's going on, Brandon?
I hope that they don't wake up in the middle of us recording.
Yeah, I thought about that at the last second. I was like, you know what? This could get interesting if they start crying because there's no one else in the house other than the dog. Maybe Raja can go take care of them. But, yeah, that's where we're at. What's going on, Brandon?
So you got your beer. I got a little Crown and lemonade next to me.
I've seen that.
These, I'm telling you, Jerry, I think the only time I really drink anymore is if we are doing this podcast. I'll have a couple, or during our book club that I refuse to openly discuss in public. I might have one or two there, but these little like Crown whiskey lemonades are clutch because I don't have to do anything but crack open a can. So they're cool. But you ask how I'm doing. I am energized, and you know why I'm energized? Because I got a great night of sleep last night, Jerry.
Oh, you know what?
It was much to your chagrin.
Yeah, we were supposed to be recording this last night.
Yeah, typically, just to let the people know a little behind the scenes, if we are a day late, $1 short, a couple days late, a week late, 10 times out of 10, it's my fault. Something happened.
Jerry can't miss a schedule. Like I can't deal with being late or missing a schedule, so that typically won't be on me. But it's all right. We were only a day off this time. I remember. I think the last time it like messed us up for like 3, 4, 5 days. It was a whole thing. So we'll take the day.
We both
Brandon,
had a bunch of crazy stuff going on, but
we did
great.
What's funny is that you mentioned our book club. You know, it'd be kind of fun. We should mention to you guys listening like what we're reading in case there's any dads out there that do like to read. We've read a ton of stuff. This has been going on since the beginning of COVID. Me and a few friends, including Brandon and my brother, are in it. But right now we're reading Brandon is one of his suggestions. It's called the Dresden Files, and it's 17 books. We're not reading all 17. I think we're on the third one, and we're stopping there and switching gears. But not bad. I'd say probably like a B+. It's entertaining and easier read. And kind of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So check it out if you like books. That's what we're reading right now. Dresden Files is what it's called. Dresden.
I'm loving it. This book, I might be a little further than you because I think I got just a little bit left to the end. And
okay,
I almost texted some expletives in the book club group chat, and I stopped at a bad part. So
oh no!
I don't know how far you are. You and I haven't talked about this, but
okay,
boy, oh boy, you got something to come up. But since we're mentioning the books, we got to mention the book series that
started it.
It started it all,
mm-hmm.
And that's the Red Rising series. If you haven't read that, I think Jerry and I both agree that's probably the best series that we have read thus far. So Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I would venture to guess if you just read the first book, you'll be hooked. But I could be wrong. And if you've read it and you hate it, send us a message.
It's the best series I've ever read. I love it. It's actually supposed to be a TV show one day. It's just fantastic. I hate to give my brother credit, but actually what happened is the beginning of COVID, I asked him for something to read because we were going to be home for a while. He told me to read that. Me and Brandon started going into work before everyone else. Brandon saw me reading it. He started reading it. Another one of my friends, and basically that's how book club started, was off that book. And there's 6 of them in the series, and there actually is a 7th, which is supposed to be the last one that's coming out. I hope next year. He has not announced that yet, but fantastic. If you like sci-fi, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones or Dune or any of those types of series, this is right up there with those. It's fantastic. So, but we'll get off of the book club stuff in case these guys are like, man, I can't stand books. They need to stop talking. We'll get on to the kids stuff. Brandon, before we go do all that though, this show's called Dad Jokes for a reason. Do you want to lead off today with a dad joke, or do you want me to kick
I'm
it
going to
off?
lead off because this is topical between me and you because it's talking about muscles. And I know Jerry has been talking about my muscles at work for the last 2 weeks. So I wanted to get something that kind of matched that. So Jerry, I think you'll appreciate this.
Okay.
What's the prize for being the world champion at not using muscles?
I don't know.
Atrophy. A trophy.
I get it. Atrophy.
Yeah,
that's funny.
yeah.
That's decent. And for the record, I've been talking about Brandon's muscles because we were at a what's it not, graduation party? What is that? What it's called? Graduation party? Yeah, graduation party for a coworker. Open house. Thank you. Yeah, where and one of the kids at the party wanted to bench, and Brandon got up and threw some weights around like it was nothing, and we were kind of making a joke of it that he was showing off and telling everyone about how much he was lifting. But for the record, Brandon can lift a lot of weights, more than I can. So it was kind of funny. But he did actually hurt himself at the end of it, which was also kind of funny because he should have just stopped.
This is a lesson to dads out there. And we had a specific amount of weight that I've put up a lot before, but I haven't lifted a weight in probably 2 years. And the buddy of ours, his son is really getting into weightlifting now, going out for the football team. I told him once he hit a certain peak, I'd come out there and lift with him. Did it, hit my goal, and he wanted to keep going. And I said, no, I'm old. And then he asked again, and he gave me a little puppy dog, teenager look. And I was like, man, let me just do it with this kid one time. And, man, I should not have, because I felt like the muscle ripped completely off my bone. It's not that bad, I don't think, but it's bad enough to where I still feel it, so I set a doctor's appointment. So I'm feeling old. I'm feeling like a dad, and I probably will never do that again for the rest of my life.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, Brandon, from someone who's torn a muscle, you're going to go to that doctor, and they're either going to be like, yep, you tore it, or nope, you didn't, and they ain't going to do nothing for you because there's nothing they can do. It's just basically going to be like, yep, you just want to ice it and not use it, or, basically take it easy, or they're going to say, you should be good as just strained, also take it easy and ice it. So
well, that's
good luck with that. Yeah, that's what I literally tore the muscle in my arm, and I went to the doctor, and I've never been more disappointed in my entire life because the doctor's like, yeah, it's torn, and I'm like, okay, can you help? And they're like, no, don't use the arm, keep it wrapped if you want, ice it, but there's nothing we can do. You just gotta let it heal. And I was like, that was the biggest waste of my time of all time. So yeah, you got that to look forward to. I hope maybe
we got the same doctor because you like to be like me. And he's on vacation starting next week. So I'm not going to be able to get to him for 3 weeks. It might heal itself in the time anyway. So we got time to figure it out.
I like it. But Brandon, what's been going on with you guys in the household? What's been going on with Bryce, with KJ, everybody?
So I said I've been energized. The person who's been fighting the sleep or specifically naps has been Bryce. You would think intuitively that if he's fighting naps, maybe it's time to not give him a nap. No, that's not the right answer, because when the kid doesn't nap, you know it by 3 o'clock in the afternoon when he's being a little terrorist. So the nap is still needed as far as everybody who knows him is concerned, but he's taking a lot longer to fall asleep. So maybe we should put him down a little bit later. We've experimented with that. And sometimes he's sleeping for 45 minutes and waking right up, and you can still tell that it wasn't a long enough nap. He still occasionally has some, I don't want to know if they're night terrors, nightmares, or what, but where dad has to come in. I slept in his room last night after I woke up, fed the baby after I overslept our recording session. I fed KJ when I woke up, and then Bryce was crying like literally right as I was finishing up. So to make you feel any better, Jerry, I didn't. I slept great when I fell back asleep, but I was up for a minute after that, right around the time I texted you. But ultimately, he's not sleeping great. KJ is sleeping way better than Bryce did at his age, but it's still not. We still aren't getting like the full sleeps through the night. The longest stretch may be from basically, I don't know, 11 to 2:30. We
Is
started.
it getting old yet? Is it hit the point where it's like no longer like, he's a newborn? It's like, hey, bro, maybe try sleeping a little bit longer.
Let me tell you a secret, Jerry. This whole experience has been great for me because
you ain't doing it.
He's unlike Bryce. I ain't got. So recently, I'm joking, kind of, but it has been great for me. That's not a joke, but we decided to supplement like one bottle a day with formula, so he gets an additional bottle now, and so that's my feed basically 11:30. So in theory, Kelsey's feeding him at 9:30, 10 o'clock. She goes to bed. I'm still up at 11:30, or fall asleep and wake up at 11:30, and we feed him that bottle, and hopefully he gets like 2 o'clock. So she gets a decent stretch there. And then he normally is waking up every 2 to 3 hours after that. So it's not perfect. But even Kelsey will say this is way better than Bryce. So take that for what you will. And then honestly, we like from a family standpoint, I feel like we've caught a groove. Like KJ has his routine. If he's whining, you know it's for a reason. Bryce is like I've been saying, 75%. Just amazing kid, great brother. 25% little kid who doesn't want to listen, who wants to test every boundary possible, and makes that 25% feel like it's 150%. So do the math on that. Other than that, it's been a pretty normal couple weeks. He has school coming up, so actually a month from today to the day, he is starting preschool. So that's something that neither me, Kelsey, her parents, my parents can really come to terms with right now. There are days where I feel like he's absolutely ready. There are days where I feel like, am I setting this kid up for failure? Is he emotionally ready for this? And then I got to remember that he's going to be in there. He'll be the youngest kid in the class probably because he'll just have turned 3. But there are going to be it's a 3-year-old class. There are going to be other 3-year-olds, potentially kids who are just turning 4. So we are nervous. I'd be lying if I said we weren't. So pray for us because we all got to come to terms with it and not pull them out within 2 days because we can't handle it. What y'all been up to?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you actually said something that I have in my notes here. You talked about like catching a groove, and it's funny because when Avery was born, 2 kids is hard, right? And it kind of hits you in the face in the beginning, especially because Avery was colicky. It was really a challenge for us. And then I felt like we kind of hit a groove, which is probably where you're at right now, where it was like, okay, we got this down. It was almost hard to remember a time before you had to, right? And it was just like, okay, I got this. Well, that groove was actually going pretty well until I would say probably a couple months ago. Now, don't get me wrong. It's still we still know we know how to handle the 2 and everything. But once Avery really started moving a lot, it really changes the ballgame. I will say having 2 was hard in the beginning. We found a groove, but it is way harder now than it ever has been. And it's also way more fun. So don't get me wrong. There's good things to it, but it is a challenge because that girl likes to get into everything. She is way more adventurous than Peyton ever was. She wants to get through baby gates. She wants to pull things down. She wants to climb. She wants to jump. She is a crazy person. And she
always
fast.
has a little grin on her face when she's doing it too, like she knows she's up to something.
Yeah, she is, and she thinks it's funny. She'll laugh at you as she's doing something bad. But it was funny because I had a bunch of cousins and family up because we went to a wedding, which I'll get to in a second. And some of them were around her, and every one of them kept saying the same thing about her. It was funny. They're like, she is the fastest crawler I've ever seen in my life. And she is. She's a fast little crawler. But what that means for mom and dad is you're constantly having to follow her. Meanwhile, you still got a 2-year-old who's doing 2-year-old stuff. And Peyton's pretty good, but you still got to watch a 2-year-old. And she still got big emotions. So it's challenging, especially when you go out in public or you're trying to get stuff done around the house. Like I said, I'm home alone today with the girls. Macy had a girls' night out, much well-deserved. And, nothing crazy. They were fine. I got them all to bed, but, like, it's a lot. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to get the dishwasher done. I'm going to get these dishes done. I'm going to knock this out. And I ended up getting it all done. but I was like using every second. Like I was like maximizing the time I had in between things. Like a dishwasher, which normally takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to unload, probably was like over 25 minutes because I was just like doing it in between, feeding them, keeping them entertained, making sure someone wasn't dying. So it's definitely been a challenge. But speaking of Avery moving, the big news for us, Brandon, is Avery did take her first steps. So that's been awesome. Yep, it's been awesome. Unfortunately, she kind of took her first steps when Macy wasn't around, and I made the mistake of telling her. I probably should just let that one go. Bad dad moment. Dad's out there.
Man.
If your kid takes the first steps without mom there, maybe don't say anything. I forgot that she didn't see Peyton. Yeah, I forgot she didn't see Peyton's either, so it was not great. I was there for both of them, and I don't think she's seen either one. So
how did you manage to be there for both of them?
I know I work 60 hours a week, and I somehow seen both. Which is crazy. Which is maybe that's good for me because I get to miss a lot of things, but I get to see both of those. But then, she's been walking a bunch, taking more steps. It's been really cute because Peyton's been cheering her on, trying to get her to do it. And Peyton, when she first started walking, like didn't want to do it most of the time. Like she would do it, but like you had to almost like trick her, and she preferred not to. Avery, and it's early because it's only been a few days, but she seems to like really like it. So that's good. And when she crawled, she was the same way. It took her a while, but then when she started doing it, she was all over the place. So I'm anticipating that to happen, but also like what trouble can Avery get into now that she can also walk along with being a psychopath crawling. So, and by the way, this is funny too. So we always talk about like Avery being the crazy one, and you guys, our friends, always saying she's such an angel. Multiple times this week, I had either my mother-in-law or my mom watching the girls, and I would text or like say, "Hey, how are the girls being?" And almost verbatim, both parents at different times were like, "Peyton's being great, Avery's being Avery," which is code for Avery's just she just is who she is, and it's like this kid, I love her to death, but I honestly think since birth, I don't know if she's had like a stretch where she's just chill. She's never chill. She is constantly just today. Her new thing. She's gonna be
fun.
Oh, she is. This is a new thing. She's never done this to this level. Today, while we were eating, she was screaming as loud as she could, like literally louder than I think Peyton can. But she thought it was funny, and it wasn't like an angry one. But she would screech for like 10 seconds, and I would like look at her, and I'm like, Avery, stop. And she would do it again and then start laughing. And I'm like, it was so loud it hurt my ears. She's just doing it over and over.
My problem is I am the exact opposite of you on that. If they're doing it, I'm yelling and matching their energy, and it drives Kelsey absolutely
I did that.
insane. Oh.
I tried doing that back, and then she literally like was. So then I'm like, okay, maybe now she thinks she's supposed to do. I don't know. I tried she kept doing it. It was like for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, this is like the neighbors are gonna think I'm murdering my kid, and she thought it was great. She was having the time of her life.
Because it was.
Yeah, it was just fun. And Peyton just looking at her like, what are you doing? It was funny, but. She's doing good. Avery's doing good. She's getting big. Man, she's definitely getting big. They're starting to look like, getting out of that baby stage and starting to creep towards toddler stage, which is cool, but also sad. Peyton's been doing good. Potty training has been mostly good. The one thing, and I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but Peyton has some issues with going poop. She tends to like have a few days, like I don't know if it's what she eats or it's just, but she tends to like not be able to go for like 4, 5, 6, 7 days. This last time she didn't go for over 7 days, and then she ends up in huge pain, and it's really we end up spending like a day or two trying to get her to go, giving her stuff, sitting with her, and she's just in pain, and it's terrible. It happens like it seems like every other month. So that happened, and then that kind of I think made her like take a step back with going poop at least because I think it freaked her out, but. That was like maybe over a week ago, and now she seems to be kind of good again. Hasn't had any accidents in a while. Telling us when she has to go is hit and miss. Sometimes she tells us, sometimes she doesn't. But she's not having accidents. We just end up saying, "Hey, let's go." But she's doing good for the most part on that. Can't complain too much. And we've gone a lot of places, and she does really good too. Other things, we had our first night away from both girls since Avery's been born. So that was interesting. We dropped off the girls at my mom's house, had kind of a date night, and got some stuff done. So the girls did pretty good. Peyton did better than Avery, like typical. But both girls did pretty good, especially with it being Avery's first night away from mom and dad. We had that wedding, my cousin's wedding, which was a lot of fun. The girls got to be around a lot of people. Peyton definitely is the shyer one of the two, but when she warms up, she was having a blast with all the kids. The hard part was it was at my cousin's wedding, a lot of family from out of state and stuff, and we were all there for a long time having fun. But there was a bunch of kids, tons of kids, all like young. And, it's starting to get to 9, 10 o'clock at night and later. And most of the kids are going to lay down and stuff. And Peyton and Avery, neither one wanted to lay down. Peyton was being pretty good. You could tell she was tired and cranky, but she wasn't being bad. But this Avery hadn't slept in hours and hours, and this kid would not lay down. She would not. She was just partying. She just kept going. But it was so I felt Avery. Bad. She would not go to sleep. She would not. Everyone's laughing. I'm like, she won't lay down. I don't know what to do. So she stayed up and partied, and she was throwing fists up during the songs, she was just dance on the dance floor. So she was having a blast. That was cool. The day after was fun too. We got to go on the lake, and both girls did good. Peyton's doing way better in the water. She loves being in the water, swimming with her cousins. Avery's, I feel like she's indifferent about it. She doesn't like it or hate it. She's kind of I'm in the water, whatever. So, but it was fun getting them out there. We've got them out there a few times this year, so. That was a lot of fun. The biggest thing, Brandon, it's kind of funny because their personalities are both so strong. But I was talking to someone at work today, and it's funny. You have two kids that were raised, really close in age by the same people in the same household, and they're very different. You're just very different already. Peyton's kind of the one that takes a while to warm up. She's kind of shy. She's not overly adventurous until she feels comfortable. And Avery's the one that's just doing cannonballs into whatever. Doesn't matter. Foam pit, the water, the ground. She doesn't care. So
who do you think, from a personality standpoint, who do you think each of them take from?
Macy likes to say that they both look like her and act like me. The different parts of them are very much similar to me. They're definitely both, because Peyton's still crazy, don't get me wrong, but she's different. She's more emotional crazy and just, I don't know. She's a lot in a different way. It's hard to explain. She's not the adventurous type crazy, but she's just a goofball. She's a huge goofball. And Avery's just zero fear, but I would say, honestly, they both are more like me. Macy's more introverted than I am, and they're both definitely extroverted in their own ways. So they tend to have dad's personality, unfortunately, for them. We'll see how far that gets them. But so far, we'll see. Hopefully they get some of mom's calmness, because we don't need kids with anger issues or anything like that like I had when I was younger.
Your personality's all right, Jerry. I'll give you a compliment today.
It's all right. I appreciate it. But, that's what's kind of been going on with us. It's been fun. It's been good. Nothing too crazy. You got a piece of baby gear this week, Brandon?
Yeah, so we've talked time and time again about our Nanit cams, our baby monitors. But one thing we recently put in, or bought another one during Amazon Prime Day, was another Ring cam. And we put it right in Bryce's room. Bryce is independently playing in his room a lot more, and you can pop one in the corner, get a view of the entire room. And depending on a lot of people have Ring cams, Google Nest, if you want to go with an even, because those aren't too crazy, but an even less expensive option. The Wise cam is like $20 or $30 depending on when you catch it. But those are like your wide angle cams you can get right from your on your phone, and it'll give you alerts if somebody walks in the room, if there's movement with what's going on. You can talk through it, listen. So a lot of the advantages of a baby monitor, with a fraction of the cost of something like a Nanit. And then we have them all around our house anyway on the outside. And so it integrates right into the current system that we have. So not quite necessarily meant for babies specifically, but we popped a Ring cam into Bryce's room. We got it up in the corner. They're really easy to mount if you want to do that. And so you can get a view of literally the entire room from kind of a bird's eye view.
Yeah, that's not bad advice at all. Our piece of baby gear this week's it's obviously meant for kids, but it's more for the parents than the kids. Like I said, Peyton kind of struggles sometimes going to the bathroom. So something that we've gone and used in those times is Pedialax, which is like Miralax for kids. And I didn't know that existed until obviously we started researching stuff. But basically, once they hit the age of 2, they can have them. They're like little chews. And actually, Peyton's kind of picky with food. She likes to eat them. She thinks that they taste like candy. So they don't taste bad, which is nice too. She will eat them. I don't know how much they've helped her because she still seems to have the issues. But like without them, would it be even worse? I don't know. But it's definitely something if your kid does struggle that, just to know that it does exist out there. Like I said, Pedialax, you can get them from Amazon, from any of the drugstores and stuff. And like I said, ages 2 to 11 is what they recommend. And they can have, I think they can have like 1 or 2 a day. I think children, it says 2 to 6, 1 to 3 tablets a day. So we've been trying to do that. Then I think to do too, just in case that we might start trying to do, we haven't done yet, but they say if your kid's having issues like pooping is to just give them almost like 1 of those a day. Just instead of like waiting till it gets bad and then trying to fix it, like just keep giving them it, and then it should help them digest stuff better. So that's something we might start doing as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, Brandon, I think that's a good place for us to kind of get into today's topic. Today's topic is something we've talked about definitely on this podcast before, but I don't think we've done like a full-blown episode on it, and it's something that's, man, if it's not relevant in your life, you're doing great. But I think it's relevant in pretty much every dad's life, and that's basically screen time, and how and when to introduce it and how to manage it, because in the world we live in today, it's hard. And it's sometimes you can feel like you're doing terrible at it. Sometimes you can feel like you're doing great, and it's challenging because screens are all around, and it's not. Some of it's great. Some of it actually is really good for the kids, and some of it's not. And it's really hard to keep away from them. And it's not just TV. You're talking phones. You're talking tablets. You're talking, you're out places, and there's other screens around. It's all around. Cars have them, So that's what we're going to be talking about. And I think, Brandon, the big thing is, I don't know about you, but I started with, okay, when should you actually introduce quote unquote screen time to your kid? And almost every single thing I've read in any pediatric website or office or agency all pretty much said the same thing that I found, which basically says you should not introduce screen time before 18 months. Once they hit 18 months, yeah.
Exact same thing I saw. And I think you mentioned, I know you're about to get into the win a little bit more, but you mentioned like you're looking at some stuff makes you feel good, look at some stuff makes you feel bad, or in general, just how your day to day. Everything I looked at made me feel like an abject failure. I think you and I were kind of talking about that in the lead up to this episode, and we'll kind of get into more of what our methods are and why. But it's really interesting to see and remind yourself of what the AAP recommends.
Yeah, and the reason, like, okay, so I guess, if you're like, okay, well, what if I do it before 18 months? Why is it such a big deal? Well, according to all these people, it can lead to, brain development being slowed down. It can lead to obesity, inadequate sleep, behavioral problems, delays in language and social skills, violence, attention issues, and learning, like, being slowed down, among other things. That was almost like one article.
Freaking description.
It's basically
I got a hangnail. Oh, you're about to die. Lord have mercy.
I mean, that's what they list, and that's the Mayo Clinic. That's from the Mayo Clinic. It's not like some random website. And they basically show like these kids' brains at 18, like that had like no screen time versus like had like an hour screen time versus more, and it like basically shows that they develop slower. And so that's what really scared me. I'm like, gosh dang, because it's not like we put our kids in front of the TV or in front of tablets and stuff, but the TV's on sometimes, and especially now that Peyton's a little bit older, she watches stuff every once in a while, and Avery happens to be around. The good news for us is, luckily, Avery's the kid that's not interested in screens really at all. So even though Peyton every once in a while will watch a movie or a show, Avery typically isn't paying attention. She's doing her own thing. So I'm trying to, and I don't know if that's just me trying to make myself feel better, but it seems to be the case because, like I said, they say before 18 months, and it's not like if the kid sees 10 minutes of Sesame Street or a movie that their older siblings watching that their brain's gonna explode. We're not saying that, but it does
like
say like I know. And then when they talk about screen time too, Brandon, it seems like most of the places are talking about like, hey, that means like an hour a day, right? So if your kid's watching 5-10 minutes less or like half an hour or less, not that it's encouraged, it's really once it gets to like that hour a day, that shouldn't happen until 18 months, 2 years of age.
Yeah, so this was something that Kelsey and I discussed a lot before we had kids, and the funny thing is we both agreed that no screen time at all. Like this is something we need to focus on, and with Bryce, honestly, it wasn't all that difficult. You can't to a degree control what's happening when your kids are being watched by someone else. Like I'm not necessarily about to tell my parents they can't watch the news and things like that. But it got to be when Bryce could kind of move around, exploring language a little bit, where it wasn't 18 months, but it was, I'd say, around a year mark where things like Miss Rachel and stuff like that got introduced. What you just brought up is the second child, and you hit the nail on the
head.
Poor
KJ, poor AJ. KJ and AJ getting the raw end of the stick.
What is so difficult to
it is
like not have them engage. And the other thing we don't want, because some of this, and you see a lot of kids walking around like, and their faces are buried in like tablets, and you can tell. I say you can tell, but maybe every time you see them, they got the tablet with them, stuff like that. That's the part of it we've been trying to avoid because we don't want something like that to become the crutch. But I think if the screen is going to be on, the content that they're looking at is super important. If there's somebody who's going to be engaged, and that's the other side of it. Bryce, for us, would still like. There was a period of time he was completely disinterested in the TV unless Miss Rachel. If it was Miss Rachel or Daniel Tiger, he's interested. Anything else, including other kids shows, he could care less. He's over playing by himself, or he may play by himself and kind of look up and glance at the TV from time to time. So we definitely read and read what the AAP recommended, but I'd say we definitely came up at least 8 months or short of that recommendation, but we tried to do it within reason.
Yeah, I mean, with Peyton, I feel like we definitely tried to be really good early on. The hard part with Peyton, honestly, early was she was colicky. So it would be, hey, it's 2 a.m., I'm freaking rocking my kid again, trying to not, fall asleep while I'm rocking her, so you might put something on in the background. She wasn't really watching it, but that was really when TV was around. But Peyton was that weird kid that, I don't know how old it was, but it probably was around 1, that, she would actually pay attention to a movie. And like a Disney movie that wasn't half bad for a parent.
That used to amaze me when you would tell me that.
Yeah, and so it was like, okay. And it wasn't like, hey, let's watch movies all the time, but like if it was early in the morning or late at night before bed, it'd be like, okay, let's snuggle and watch a movie, because she'd be well behaved and she'd be cute, and it'd be like, oh, I'm watching, Beauty and the Beast with my daughter. This is great. Again, we were probably too early on that as well. We do a pretty good job now of trying to limit her screen time to, let's call it an hour or less. The exception to that would be every once in a while, like if we have to get stuff done and the girls are being crazy, you might throw on Bluey or something. And, what turns into 1 episode turns into 5 because you're getting stuff done actually because they're paying attention. And they're short.
Well, let's not gloss over that either, Jerry. Like, as parents, working parents, we got stuff we got to get done too. That if they don't get done, they're to the detriment of the child and our mental health. So, sometimes I look at stuff like this and I'm like, this. You got to take the research and know that they did the work and be aware of the effects that the screens can have on your kids. And neither I or Jerry are professing to be experts. We're just telling you about our experience. But like sometimes you need 30 to 40 minutes to get something done, and that TV is going to have your kid glued in front of it, you put the right thing on there, and
even making food. You're trying to make
that
them
helps
dinner.
my brain development.
Yeah, exactly. No, it can be a lot, So I guess the good place to go from here, Brandon, is like, okay, if they're gonna start watching screens, what's the best way to do it? What should you watch out for? And I think the first thing is, what are you putting on? Because there is a difference between putting on Sesame Street, Miss Rachel, Daniel Tiger versus putting on SportsCenter or whatever you normally like to watch. And early on in Peyton's life, I think sometimes we put stuff on because it was before she would pay attention, and it was like, oh, well, we might as well watch something. Not that was bad stuff, but, it might be like, a sitcom or something. Now is to the point where definitely she's at the age where, like, it's like, okay, we really need it to be content that we're okay with her seeing, right? Because she picks up on tons of stuff, and she's learning, and she's mimicking things. So, again, what they are watching is one of the keys. Like, try to make it so, one, it's good quality, not bad stuff, but two, maybe it's educational. Because that's one thing that I actually will say that is nice about screens is if you put on an educational show, it can help them learn. Like, I genuinely know that Miss Rachel has taught my kid things, and she annoys me.
Without question.
But I know for a fact she's taught Peyton things. I know for a fact Daniel Tiger's potty episode helped her with potty training. Like, screens can help. It doesn't mean they're a crutch or the only thing you use, but they can help. So use them to help you, because that's what's nice too. Is like, let's say you're trying to get something done as a dad, and then you put something on the TV and it's helping them learn. Now you don't feel guilty either, like, oh, I'm not working on, shapes or colors or numbers or whatever right now because I have to do this stuff around the house. Okay, but Miss Rachel's working on it, right? And then also maybe if you've been trying to teach something and you're struggling, like, I don't feel like I'm getting through to my kid on this. Okay, find something like on a YouTube channel or whatever that helps maybe deliver it in a different way. And then all of a sudden they're getting something that you weren't being able to teach them. So I guess the point there is use screens effectively. Doesn't mean like, hey, sit them down 5 hours and Miss Rachel. I don't think that's good for them either. But if you're going to put them down for a half an hour to watch something, make it something they're okay watching, that you're okay with them watching, and kind of two birds, one stone type of thing.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on the Miss Rachel specifically. I mean, we work with Bryce on stuff every day, and I think Miss Rachel might be 5 times more effective than we are. But the cool thing about it is you can pop in for 5-10 minutes, sing the Miss Rachel songs with them. They're that much more engaged. But it's you're almost reinforcing each other. Miss Rachel's reinforcing what you're showing your kid, and vice versa. But I mean, colors, numbers, sign language, how to pronounce words, like I can attribute a lot of that stuff to Miss Rachel. It's great. And then on the Daniel Tiger thing, you want to talk about feelings, like Bryce, when he's upset, I can sing the Daniel Tiger song and get him to take a deep breath, and he relates to it. And there are a few other things there. And I guess if we're diving into kind of the world of educational apps and shows, there's a ton of options. So how are you ultimately choosing what the best option is? We mentioned a couple. You want to look for shows that are interactive, engaging, encourage the learning, like Jerry was mentioning, and a big thing, especially with the growing mind. So screen time is one thing, and Jerry mentioned how there's, for lack of a better way to put it, there's levels to this. What you want to avoid, yeah, that was a good save, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wink, wink to those who know where I was going. But you need to make sure that you're avoiding flashing lights, fast-paced action when the screen is moving like quickly from one scene to another. That has been linked to potential issues or in that brain development. Do your own research, but there are very popular shows out there that come up, shows like Coco Melon, where I would say I'm not going to give them the kiss of death, but just research potentially the good shows to watch for kids and shows that the Mayo Clinic or the American Association of Pediatrics straight up say, hey, this is not necessarily a show that I may not have my kid watching. So you got those. PBS Kids in general has a ton of good content. Sesame Street.
Sesame Street,
you can put apps on your iPad or so Bryce's favorite app is a phone that comes on an app that comes on my iPad. It's called Freeform. It's just a thing that he can draw in. I use it to take notes. It's like an unlimited drawing note app. You can zoom in, zoom out as much as you want, and I mean he will draw on that thing. And we've worked on him writing his name and stuff like that on there. But iPad apps like that, Freeform, Khan Academy Kids, and Moose Math are all good options as well.
Yeah. And then another thing we're talking about, like, okay, so you have screen time. Maybe you make it good screen time, but what else should you be doing in regards to screen time? And I think one is have activities that aren't centered around it, that your kid likes to do, right? Because if they only like screen time because you don't have these other activities because they're bored otherwise, they're going to constantly ask to watch the TV. So have activities around the house. Have
and then
things
they're
to
going to cry
help
when
them
you
do.
don't give it to them.
Correct. So that,
every time you're going to.
And this is something that Macy does a great job, and so does my mother-in-law does a fantastic job. They have all these like different art projects or different learning games or different things, and they get the girls engaged, sensory bins, all this different types of stuff. So the girls have just a plethora of things they can do, and honestly, they like to do. So sometimes Peyton's like, "Let's watch TV," and I'm like, "No," and she gets upset for a second, but then I put one of these things in front of her, and she's perfectly fine because she loves doing this stuff too. So having other activities is huge. Another thing that I need to be better at, and we're pretty good because we have such a long bedtime routine, but they say that the worst time to watch TV is actually an hour or less before bedtime. It's just you don't want to do it. It can mess with their sleep and all that kind of stuff. So try to, if you're going to do it, don't do it early in the morning. Don't do it before night. Do it before night. Yeah, technically, which is true because anytime I'm watching something before bed, I sleep worse. But yeah, don't do it before bed. And then something that I read too, and it's a good point, is set a good example. So if you're constantly on your phone, if you're constantly on a tablet, if you're constantly watching TV, even if it's not something they like, your kids think that that's normal. They think that they want to watch stuff too. So, try to set a good example. Do things that aren't, TV related, screen related, have conversations, play games, different things to help your kid learn and have fun without being reliant on just, a screen in front of them. And that's going to be something that you have to do not just when they're toddlers, but as they get older and older and older, because we know screens aren't going away. So that's some things I read, Brandon.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into, or piggybacking on that is one of my last main points here. Like, you can't forget the importance of good old-fashioned screen-free play. Like, your kid, it has a crazy imagination at this age, and what can you do to help kind of mold that and cultivate that? And Jerry mentioned the example of not necessarily using like your phone, but also, I mean, sit down and, I know it sounds simple, but not everybody's doing it. Sit down and play with your kid, like, and show them how to play. Tap into that. It's gonna sound super cheesy. Like, I almost can't believe I'm saying this, but like, tap into that inner kid. Like, if I got race cards, Bryce will pull all his cards out, or all his little people characters. I'm talking in every different voice I can think of in my head. We're making it fun, and guess what? Like, I've been doing that his entire childhood. I look up, and we got the ring cam. I can watch him in his room doing the same stuff that I'm doing. He remembers the name.
How many voices you got, Brandon? Because I've found out through being the dad that I feel like I only got like 5. I feel like I have more, and then I start doing it, and I'm like, this is the same voice I just did for so and so.
Nah, I mean the Ollie, the alligator in the bath, got a different voice than Sophia. That got a different voice than. Now some of the voices are cheap. I think I'm not great, but I'm okay at imitation. It might come because I can sing a little bit. So like the cheat codes are like, I can do like Sesame Street characters. Okay, so those got their own voices. So if you talk about Brandon original voices, then you probably 5 is probably a good number. They probably blend together a little bit, but you do that stuff. You show them how to play with their toys. You look up, and they're doing the same stuff that you were doing and having a great time. So,
right.
I mean, spend the time with your kid and show them how to play. And that stuff is fun, man. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm basically like freestyle rapping, coming up with little funny songs while I'm showing Bryce, like, we're playing with a car and a Sesame Street character. So, you can tap into that inner kid, have a good time, things like playing with blocks. We've recently gotten to the world of magnet tiles, which
magnet tiles are huge. Yeah,
dude, I was not a Lego guy growing up, not really an architect type guy. These magnet tile things, I feel like, are a little advanced for Brandon. Like, in my mind, they should like stack up on their own. I'm telling you, man, I can like I see stuff that people create, and it makes me feel like honestly an idiot because I'm like, how are they doing that, and how can I don't know.
Peyton loves
I
them.
can't.
And
it's tough enough making a box. Yeah, but you got things like that, Legos. Take them outside, like outside. The one thing I love the fact that my parents are able to watch my kid. The thing I love as much as anything is Bryce spends like half his day outside. Like my dad loves being outside. He's a country boy from Louisiana. They take like 3 walks a day. The people at there's a speedway locally they walk to like every day. All the people know Bryce inside. Like little stuff like that. Those unplugged moments foster their creativity. That can help with their problem solving skills and help with like emotional intelligence. I mean, I can't speak enough. Like screens are not the boogeyman that everybody makes them out to be, but you got to, like anything else, use it in moderation.
Right. Give your kid experiences.
I'm off my soapbox.
No, you're good. The last thing I'll say, Brandon, is just set rules to the stuff. So if you tell your kid, hey, we're going to watch 1 episode, or you're allowed this much screen time per day or tablet time as they get older, set rules, stick to the rules, help them understand the rules, and then it becomes normal, But if you give in on it or you don't have it at rules, that's when it can get tricky. So, I know one thing right now that we've been doing is I'll tell Peyton because she loves to read, which is great, but she'll always want to read another book. And I'll be like, this is the last book before bed. And she'll go, okay, Daddy, 1 more book before bed. And I go, yes. And then we finish it. And of course, what happens? 1 more book before bed. Yeah. But the point is, like, I try to stick to it. Like, nope, I said 1 more book. This is the last book. And then she's at the point now where it's funny. Like tonight I said that. She goes, oh, okay. Like she like understood. Like she like giving me still the puppy dog eyes. But she's starting to get it. Like it's these are the rules. We need to stop. There's, hey, we're going to watch an episode of Bluey, but after this episode, that's it. Whatever it is, try to stick to it and you'll be fine. But it's moderation, right? Don't freak out if your kids watch some TV or more than you probably want them to. I think every parent can tell you it's inevitable. They're going to watch some. Or if it's not you, maybe it's grandma, maybe it's grandpa, maybe it's their friends, maybe it's daycare. What is, you can't control it. They're going to see some TV, right? But you can try to do your best to limit it and put on what you want to have on so that your kid is developing the way you want them to develop.
I couldn't have said that and closed the episode better myself, Jerry.
Boom. That means it's time for a dad joke. Are you ready, Brandon?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Brandon, what do you call a paper airplane that... What do you call a paper airplane that can't fly?
Bad engineering.
Stationary. Get it? It?
That was actually pretty good.
That was pretty clever. I like that one. So anyways, yeah, that's my dad joke. But this is where we do our shameless plug, as I'll call it. If you haven't already, please like us on social media. Please send us a message. Tell us what you want to hear about. Tell us if you want to be on the show. Please leave a review. A couple people have left reviews lately. We love hearing that. Tell us what you're thinking about. A couple people have shared their babies being born recently. First-time dads. Congratulations to you all. It is the best. So excited for you guys.
That was Marcus, right?
It was Marcus. Yep, he was the most recent person to do it. Yep.
Congratulations.
So shout out, congratulations. But we definitely like hearing from every one of you. I think, man, it seems like we're getting 5 or 6 messages a week at least now from different people. Just had a couple more today. So again, we try to answer every single person when they message us. We like hearing from you guys. And being a dad's awesome. It's fun to share in it and hear other people's stories and also know that we're reaching some people out there and you guys are listening. That's the biggest compliment. So please let us know. And the best thing you can do, honestly, is tell your friends about us. If they're a parent or they're going to be a parent soon, that's the biggest compliment you can pay is telling someone else to listen to us. So we appreciate you all.
And I never interrupt Jerry's outro.
He doesn't.
I've been on Reddit recently, and we've gotten some like as a like a this is a hobby for us. Like we love talking about our kids, love interacting with you guys, but like I've run across multiple Reddit threads that I'm just like I'm a part of the groups. I kind of pop in and out of there. I don't really advertise us in that way, and I see like people starting to recommend the Dad Jokes podcast, saying, "Hey, check this out," when new dads are coming on there. So, if anyone has come from Reddit, shoot us a message. It's fun to know. But also for those of you who are out there recommending us, I can't tell you like that touched my heart a little bit, Jerry.
Yeah, it's super cool when you see that, when someone messages you. I mean, it does. I mean, me and Brandon work really close next to each other, sometimes too close. And every once in a while, I'll be like, "Hey, did you see that message that just came through? It happened today." Literally, I said, "Hey, did you see this?" And it's kind of fun. We actually had someone else reach out to us randomly, who has their own podcast that someone was trying to sell them something, and they're like, "Hey, they said that you guys used them," and we're like, "No, we didn't." And they're like, "All right, thanks, good luck." But that's stuff like that. It's just fun, like he was. I don't even know if he listens to our podcast, but he basically was like, "Hey, I'm trying to make sure I'm not getting scammed," and we're like, "No, you might be." So stuff like that, just kind of, bro. Yeah, that's basically what it was. But you're like, we're gonna answer you. We want to take care of everyone out there and help out. Like I said, it's definitely, this is a hobby. This is a fun hobby of ours, and so we appreciate all of our listeners. But until next time, I'm Jerry, as always, joined here by Brandon, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.